The rain came down like it had a score to settle. Thick sheets of water crashed against the canopy, soaking the earth and drowning out every other sound except thunder. In the heart of the jungle, far beyond the reach of paved roads and human chatter, there lived a man who had long forgotten the rhythm of the world outside. His name was Elias. Elias Khan was a lumberjack, but not the kind you imagine with chainsaws and loud trucks. No, Elias lived in a wooden cabin he built himself, deep in the Turkish wilderness, surrounded by towering cedar trees and silence. He had a thick beard, eyes like storm clouds, and hands so rough they could splinter bark. His only company was an old radio, a wounded dog he once nursed back to health named Tufan, and the memories he tried every day to forget. It had been 5 years since Elias last saw another human face up close. Not since the accident. Not since the fire. Not since everything that mattered turned to ash. He had chosen this isolation. Chosen to become a ghost. And the jungle, in all its wild indifference, had accepted him. He woke before dawn, felled trees with the rhythm of a man who had nothing else to keep time with, and returned home each night too tired to dream. But that night, something shattered the monotony. It was nearly midnight when Elias heard it, the faint crackle of something moving beyond the tree line. Tufan's ears perked up. The storm made it hard to tell, but Elias knew the jungle well. Too well. This wasn't an animal. No bear would stumble like that. No wolf would cry out like a human trying not to scream. He grabbed his lantern, threw on his raincoat, and followed the sound into the trees. The light flickered as the wind howled through the forest, but Elias pressed on. The sound grew louder, branches snapping, a weak voice, like a prayer spoken through blood. Then, just beyond a fallen log, he saw her. She was lying on her side, soaked to the bone, a torn white blouse clinging to her like paper. Her foot was twisted unnaturally, one arm cradled against her ribs, her face streaked with mud and fear. Her eyes flicked open as Elias approached, wide with panic. "Please, don't hurt me." Elias knelt beside her without a word. He wasn't much for talking anymore. Carefully, he slipped his arms beneath her, lifting her as gently as he could. She whimpered but didn't fight him. Her body was limp with exhaustion. Whatever she'd been through, it had nearly broken her. "I won't," he said, his voice rough from disuse. "You're safe." She passed out in his arms before they even reached the cabin. When she woke the next morning, it was to the scent of burning wood and warm soup. She blinked slowly, unsure where she was. The ceiling above her was wooden, low, and unfamiliar. A fire crackled nearby. Her injuries throbbed. "You're awake," came a voice from the corner. She turned her head and saw Elias, crouched by the fire with a bowl in his hand. "Where am I?" "My cabin. You were lost. Hurt. I found you in the storm." She tried to sit up but winced. Her ankle was wrapped, and her ribs had been bandaged with care. Elias set the bowl down beside her. "Eat. You need strength." She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes filled with questions she was too afraid to ask. "I'm Layla," she finally whispered. "Elias." Silence stretched between them like a tightrope. She nodded slowly and picked up the bowl with trembling hands. Over the next few days, Elias did what he had not done in years, he shared his world with someone else. He built a crutch for her from cedar branches. He prepared her meals. He sat outside the cabin at night, staring at the stars, listening for nightmares that might come from inside. Layla didn't say much at first, but her eyes spoke volumes. There was something she was hiding, something that lived behind her every glance, her every flinch. Her body healed slowly, but her soul stayed quiet. One morning, Elias found her crying behind the cabin. He didn't speak. He just sat beside her, the way the trees do, present but not demanding. Finally, she broke. "I was running," she said. "From someone. From him." Elias clenched his jaw. "Who?" "My fiancé. He's not who people think he is." Elias waited. "He's rich, powerful, charming in front of cameras. But behind closed doors, he's a monster. I tried to leave. He didn't let me. So I ran." She looked up at Elias, her eyes red but unbroken. "I didn't know where else to go. I just wanted to disappear." Elias stood and offered her his hand. "Then you came to the right place." Weeks passed. The jungle, for all its wildness, became a kind of cocoon around them. Elias found himself smiling again. He taught Layla how to split wood, how to read the weather by the way birds flew, how to find edible plants. And Layla, in return, brought color back into his world. She hummed when she cooked. She told stories when the rain fell. She asked questions about him, not just what he did, but who he was before. He resisted at first, but piece by piece, she pulled the truth from him. I had a wife, he admitted one night as they sat by the fire. And a daughter. Layla's hand tightened around her mug. They died. In a house fire. My fault. I left the stove on. Went out to cut wood. Came back to nothing. The silence that followed was different this time. Heavy. But not hopeless. I thought if I punished myself long enough, I'd forget how much it hurt, Elias continued. But I never did. Layla didn't say anything. She just leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. In the jungle, two broken people found something neither of them expected, peace. But peace doesn't last forever. One morning, Layla found Elias sharpening his axe. I want to stay, she said suddenly. He looked up, surprised. I know I should keep running. But here, with you, I feel safe. Real. Elias stared at her, something flickering in his chest he hadn't felt in years. Hope. But before he could answer, a low rumble echoed in the distance. An engine. A black SUV, crawling up the narrow trail Elias thought no one knew about. Layla froze. Her face turned white. He found me, she whispered. Oh God, he found me. Elias's eyes darkened. Get inside, he growled. And just like that, the jungle wasn't a haven anymore. It was a battleground. Right finger if this story touched your heart even a little. Show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel. Your love helps us keep telling stories like these, stories that matter. Stay tuned for Chapter 2. Heart on fire. The air had shifted. Not just in temperature, but in spirit. Elias stood silently on the porch of the cabin, axe in hand, watching as the black SUV snaked slowly through the thick jungle path like a predator that had finally caught the scent of prey. His mind moved swiftly, not in panic, but in precision. This jungle was his world. Every tree, every trap, every hiding place belonged to him. Whoever came now would learn what happened when you trespassed on the home of a man with nothing left to lose, and everything newly found. Inside, Layla was trembling. Her hands clutched the wooden wall like it might swallow her whole and save her. Her eyes were wild, frightened, and filled with the same silent plea that Elias had once seen in his daughter's face when the flames began to rise. That one look made the decision for him. He would not let her be taken. Not again. Not this time. He returned to the door and crouched beside her. There's a trapline 2 miles north. I'll draw him away. When I say go, you run, stay hidden. No matter what happens, don't come back until nightfall. Understand? Her lip trembled. I can't let you get hurt for me. Elias's hand found hers. It was the first time he'd touched her like that, firm, protective, warm. You already saved me, Layla. I'm just returning the favor. Before she could protest, the tires crunched closer. He gave her one final look, then slipped out the back, disappearing into the jungle like a shadow. The man who stepped out of the SUV looked like someone who had never gotten his shoes dirty before today. Slick hair, designer jacket, cold, pale eyes. He moved like the ground belonged to him. 2 armed men flanked him, stepping carefully through the underbrush. Spread out, he ordered. Find her. Layla, crouching deep behind a thick cedar tree 100 feet away, covered her mouth with her sleeve to muffle her breaths. She could hear her own heartbeat, fast, frantic, and loud enough, she feared, to betray her. But Elias had planned this. Around them, subtle movements began. A branch swayed oddly, a rope hidden under moss jerked, and one of the guards suddenly vanished with a scream into a pit of sharpened sticks. The jungle answered the intruders with teeth. What the hell? The other guard shouted, raising his rifle. Too late. Elias leapt from above, swinging down with his axe like thunder. The rifle clattered uselessly to the ground. The man didn't get up. The man in the jacket, Layla's fiancé, Hassan, stood frozen. I know you, Elias growled, stepping into the open, rain dripping from his beard like blood. You're the kind who only feels strong when someone else is weak. Hassan smirked, pretending not to be rattled. I'm guessing you're the stray dog she found to hide behind. What are you, a failed lumberjack? Her little jungle toy. Elias said nothing. His grip on the axe tightened. I don't know what story she fed you, Hassan said, stepping back toward the SUV, but that woman is unstable. She steals. Lies. She belongs in a hospital, not in your bed. A soft voice interrupted them both. No, Layla said, stepping from the trees, wounded foot limping, face streaked with mud, but eyes unshakable. I don't belong to you. Not anymore. Hassan's expression twisted. You really think you're strong now? You really think this caveman will keep you safe? No, she said, stepping beside Elias. I know he will. Because unlike you, he doesn't pretend to love. He just does. Hassan's hand went to his belt, a small silver pistol flashed into view. The moment slowed. Elias stepped forward. A shot rang out. Layla screamed. But it wasn't Elias who fell. It was Hassan. The gun slipped from his hand as he collapsed, clutching his leg where the bullet had pierced clean through. Behind them, in the trees, stood an old man with a hunting rifle, Mustafa, Elias's once reclusive neighbor who lived across the river and rarely spoke. But he'd heard the commotion. And he remembered Elias's kindness from years ago. You point a gun in my jungle, you better shoot straight, Mustafa said coolly. Now get out. And take your filth with you. They didn't press charges. Hassan, disgraced, limped back to Istanbul where his image soon crumbled. The world finally saw the man behind the charm. His family disowned him. His fortune faded. The monster was exposed. But Elias and Layla never followed the news. They had no need to. They stayed. They rebuilt the cabin. Together. Stronger. Days became seasons. Layla's limp healed. So did Elias's heart. In the mornings, she woke to the sound of birds and Elias's warm breath on her skin. In the evenings, they sat by the fire, not needing to say anything. The silence between them was no longer empty, it was peaceful. And one day, just after the first snowfall, Elias carved something into the side of the cabin wall. 2 names. Months later, in a small village on the jungle's edge, a stranger came looking for the lumberjack who saved a lost woman. He was a reporter. I heard she turned out to be someone important, the man said. A billionaire's daughter. A fashion icon. The heir to a global empire. Can I meet them? Their story might inspire millions. The old grocer at the edge of the trail simply smiled. She turned out to be more than any of that, he said. She turned out to be human. Broken. Brave. Free. And the man, he turned out to be alive again. Where are they now? The grocer pointed toward the jungle. Home. Where love found them when the world lost them. Dove, if this story touched your heart, let it touch someone else's too. Hit the like button, subscribe for more soul-stirring stories, and share this with someone who still believes in second chances. Heartbreak Red Heart Herb. -- Would you like a thumbnail prompt or AI image to match this story? Or perhaps a Hindi version of the script for dubbing? 6 months had passed since the storm, the gunshot, and the man named Hassan had been driven out of the jungle. 6 quiet, healing, love-soaked months. Layla and Elias had fallen into a rhythm. It was not fast or loud. It was not filled with flashy dinners or grand gestures. It was real, a kind of love that didn't need to be announced, only felt. And then one morning, the world shifted again, softly this time, but permanently. Layla threw up. At first, Elias assumed it was something she ate, maybe wild berries. But it happened again the next day. And the next. The color slowly drained from her cheeks, and her energy dipped with each sunrise. She tried to hide it at first, brushing it off with tired smiles. Until one afternoon, as the sun painted golden light across the jungle canopy, Layla sat on the front steps of the cabin, tears in her eyes, and whispered the words that would change their lives. Elias, I'm pregnant. He froze. The axe in his hand slipped gently to the earth. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Elias knelt in front of her, placed a hand over her trembling stomach, and whispered, Are you happy? She nodded, though tears still fell. Yes. But, Elias, this isn't your child. His eyes met hers, unwavering. I know, he said. But it will be my family. And that was that. The jungle changed after that. It softened. Elias began carving cradles instead of chopping firewood. He built a small addition to the cabin with his own hands, tender, careful, like he was building a world from scratch. Layla stopped running. She began painting again, using berries and charcoal, decorating the walls with images of birds, flowers, and dreams. They were building a life. But peace, as always, doesn't come without a price. Because far away, in Istanbul's elite circles, a secret had slipped through the cracks. A photo had surfaced, grainy, long distance but unmistakable. Layla, in the jungle, pregnant, and the man who once called her his property, the billionaire whose name could still command fear, wasn't quite done with her. Hassan wanted the child, not because he loved it, not because he regretted anything, but because it was his blood. And men like Hassan didn't give up control. Elias was chopping wood when the first helicopter passed overhead. It didn't land, just circled once and vanished into the horizon. Layla came running, her face pale. "Did you see that?" Elias nodded. "I saw." The very next day, a letter arrived, tucked under a stone outside their door. No one heard footsteps. No one saw who left it. But the message was clear. Greater than, "I want my son. You have 1 week. After that, I come. Myself." There was no signature. None was needed. Elias stared at the paper like it might catch fire. Then he did something Layla didn't expect. He tore it up, quietly, and said, "We leave tonight." They walked for hours, through the thickest part of the jungle, along rivers and routes only Elias knew. His plan wasn't to run forever. Just far enough to be safe again. He knew an old, hidden trail that led to the southern coast. They could find a fisherman. Disappear across the sea. Begin again. But just before sunset, Layla collapsed. Her body, already weakened, couldn't keep up. "I can't," she gasped, holding her belly. "The baby, Elias, something's wrong." Panic gripped him, but not for long. He scooped her into his arms and ran. Not toward the coast, but back, toward help, the only help they had. Mustafa. The old man took one look at Layla and opened his door wide. "She's early," he muttered. "Too early." They cleared a table, boiled water, gathered cloth. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. Layla went into labor that night. The jungle, usually alive with howls and wind, fell silent. Like it, too, was holding its breath. She screamed. She cried. She called for Elias, and he never let go of her hand. Hours passed. Dawn broke. And then, a sound. A cry. A heartbeat outside the womb. A son. Red-faced, tiny, and furious at the world already. Layla collapsed back in exhaustion. Elias held the child like he was holding light itself. But the joy was short-lived. Because just as the sun rose, the sound of engines came again. Not one this time. 3. Hassan had returned. Not with goons, not with letters, but with lawyers and cameras and police. He stood outside the hut, clean-shaven, all smiles for the authorities. "She was kidnapped," he lied. "She's mentally unwell. The child is mine." Elias stepped outside, cradling the baby, his other hand holding Layla upright. "She ran from you," Elias growled. "You abused her. The baby is hers. You lost the right to be part of this family the moment you raised your fist." But Hassan didn't need to shout. He had power, money, proof of paternity, police in his pocket. And just when Elias thought they'd lost, a voice rose from the jungle. Then another. And another. Dozens of villagers. People Elias had once helped in silence. A woman he gave firewood to. A boy he pulled from the river. A farmer whose fence Elias rebuilt. One by one, they stood between him and the law. Mustafa, rifle slung over his shoulder, stood beside Elias. "If you want the boy," he told Hassan, "you'll have to walk over all of us." Hassan paled. This wasn't a courtroom. This wasn't a boardroom. This was the jungle. And the jungle belonged to them. He tried to push past, tried to shout. But someone filmed it. His rage, his threats, his cruelty. That video would go viral by sunset. And he knew it. Hassan left. For good. 2 years later, the jungle sang with joy. A small boy, hair wild and laughter loud, ran between the trees, barefoot and fearless. Behind him, Elias followed, whittling him a wooden toy from a cedar branch. Layla stood at the door of their rebuilt home, belly round again, smiling with tears in her eyes. She had chosen the jungle once, out of desperation, but now, she chose it again, out of love. Elias came up beside her, scooped her into his arms. "You never asked me what I was before I was a lumberjack," he said. She smiled. "What were you?" "A broken man. And now," he kissed her forehead, "now I'm whole." And behind them, on the carved wood above their cabin, was a new engraving.